Let's arch and some numbers there for Sark. 75% of the game, he couldn't complete a meaningful pass. 0 for 5 on throws of 5 yards down the field. Final quarter, he showed some flash, though, completing 3 passes for over 25 yards. You guys know my stance.
Danger. You're down 7. You got to hit that. He didn't play like we expected him to play in this game.
All right, now, this nigga Arch Manning was a preseason Heisman candidate strictly off his last name. The same shit y'all love him for is the same shit y'all hate Shedeur for. Let me tell you the difference. 1 white, 1 black. Arch Manning ain't showed a shit. This nigga got like 38 yards. Like, nigga, this nigga Shedeur was going out there throwing for 500 yards in a game type shit. And y'all still trying to say this nigga not good, he overhyped because his last name. Y'all mad his name Sanders and y'all love him because his name Manning. That's fucking crazy.
What if the most hyped quarterback prospect in a generation just isn't him? We were told Arch Manning was different, that he had the arm of a future MVP, the pedigree of football royalty, and the kind of it factor that couldn't be coached. Before he threw a single college pass, he was already being called the next Tim Tebow, but better. A 5-star, can't-miss, game-changing prodigy. But then, he finally stepped on the field. And what happened next? It wasn't just underwhelming. It was hard to watch. His first throw, a dirt ball. His final stat line, barely enough to fill out a box score. But instead of taking accountability, the media rushed to spin the narrative. Suddenly, it wasn't his fault. It was the play calling, the game plan, the environment. The excuses came faster than the completions.
All in all, like, the growth throughout the game for Arch was really encouraging for me. We're going to be fine. Like I said, we got work to do as a team and as an offense, but ultimately, like, I'm getting on the plane knowing we're going to be a good football team. And so, hey, we didn't win tonight. That's the life of a competitor. We went for it in a tough place against a good team.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the spotlight, Shedeur Sanders is out here grinding through every level of the game, putting up 4,000-yard seasons, breaking records, transitioning from FCS to Power 5 to the NFL, and getting dragged through the dirt for any misstep, any dud game, any sign that he's human. So here's the real question. Why is one quarterback protected like a fragile myth, while the other gets shredded for every dropback? This isn't just about Arch Manning. It's about how hype moves faster than reality. It's about double standards, shifting narratives, and what happens when we crown kings who haven't built their kingdom. Arch Manning wasn't just another 5-star recruit. He was being treated like a football messiah. From the moment he set foot on a high school field in New Orleans, the media machine was fired up and ready to crown him. Sports networks were salivating.
Ain't nobody scared no fucking Arch Manning, nigga. That nigga not looking like Payne. I ain't gonna lie. He ain't even looking like Eli. No, I ain't gonna back though. I do want him to be the GOAT, but I ain't fucking with him today because he with the ops today. But for the rest of the season, I hope he do his thing. We ain't worried about none of that shit. Let's go, State. Let's go.
Recruiting sites couldn't rank him high enough. Analysts compared him to Peyton. Some said he might be better than Eli. And sure enough, the headlines followed suit. He's got the arm talent, the legs, the leadership, the DNA. All that before he'd even faced a single college defense. By the time he committed to Texas, Arch had already signed a massive NIL deal, appeared in national commercials, and was being talked about as the next face of college football. He backed up Quinn Ewers as a freshman, didn't really play, and somehow his stock still rose. No clips, no stats, no big-time snaps. And yet, many were already projecting him as a future Heisman candidate or an early NFL draft pick. The Manning surname wasn't just helping him, it was clearing the whole runway. And when spring camps rolled around, ESPN coverage, news alerts, scout breakdowns, fans camped out to watch him practice.
If the last name Manning was on the back of his jersey, he wouldn't be the #1 overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, the #1 team in the country. It's an enormous amount of pressure for a kid, Joey, that hasn't started a complete season. What did you make out of what you saw from him?
Yeah, all that stuff, all the talk before the game, doesn't matter whatsoever.
The mechanics, all over the place. He looked more like a backup trying to survive than a superstar ready to shine. To put it plainly, the moment was too big for him. And yet, the media scrambled to soften the blow. We weren't told Arch played poorly. We were told the play calling held him back. That he wasn't unleashed. Some even suggested Steve Sarkisian, one of the best offensive minds in college football, didn't build the right game plan. Seriously, let's be real. No matter what script you draw up, you can't coach a QB out of skipping throws to wide open targets. This wasn't about conservative play calling. This was about a player who simply wasn't ready. Meanwhile, other top QBs faced brutal media critique for far less. When Shedeur Sanders had a bad outing, the media turned on him. But for Arch, excuses came faster than the pass rush. And just like that, the generational talent became a
You know what's fucking crazy? They do the same shit to Bernie. It's really a black people thing. Like, they don't treat Arch like that. I ain't heard not one bad thing about this nigga ever. That just show you how racist these sports analysts is, man. These people hate us for real, gang.
Arch Manning laid an egg, and somehow everyone but Arch got the blame. Within hours of his underwhelming debut, analysts were spinning a different story. Dan Orlovsky, a former NFL quarterback and now TV talking head, jumped in with a bold claim. Arch wasn't underperforming. He was being held back. According to Dan, Arch still had training wheels on, as if the real problem was the coach not giving him enough freedom. Forget the fact he missed wide open passes, or the fact his form broke down under minimal pressure, or that he floated throws off his back foot like a high schooler rattled in his first varsity game. None of that mattered. Suddenly, Sarkisian was to blame for not letting Arch cook. The same Sarkisian who runs one of the most dynamic playbooks in college football?
Danger, you're down 7, you got to hit that. He didn't play like we expected him to play in this game, and honestly, he didn't play like a college football quarterback playing for number 1 team in the country. But we expect him to get better than this. It's his first time out. This is a big game on the road. He'll be better.
It's like everyone watched a different game. And maybe that's the most revealing part. When a quarterback with the most powerful last name in the sport plays poorly, people invent reasons to explain it, instead of just calling it like it is. Now compare that to how other young QBs are treated, especially those who don't have a legendary family tree behind them. When Shedeur Sanders struggles, he's overrated. When Dylan Gabriel throws a pick, he's not NFL ready. But when Arch Manning tanks in a spotlight game, crickets, excuses, spin. The problem wasn't the play calling. It wasn't the protection. It wasn't the moment. It was Arch. And yet, no one wanted to say it. But there's one quarterback who's faced the opposite treatment every step of the way. And he's already done more than Arch ever has. While Arch Manning was soaking in praise for simply existing, Shedeur Sanders was out earning it, play by brutal play.
He just looked sped up, like he never looked like the game was really coming to him. And even some of those dirt balls in the first quarter, that's not characteristic of what you saw in his tape last year. So they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board, get him calmed down.
Yeah, and I thought something you said when we were watching it.
Let's break it down. Shedeur didn't come from a brand name dynasty. He came from Jackson State, an HBCU, under primetime pressure with Deion Sanders as his father and coach. Most quarterbacks would crumble under that weight. Shedeur, he thrived. Back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons, a Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, a historic transition from FCS to Power 5, leading Colorado to their first winning season in almost a decade. He didn't just show flashes, he carried an entire program on his back. And how did the media reward him? By raising the bar so impossibly high that any drop below perfection became a bludgeon. One preseason misfire in the NFL, suddenly he's slipping, not dependable, or not ready. He went from projected first-round pick to fifth-round afterthought because of a few shaky snaps in a meaningless exhibition game. Meanwhile, Arch Manning can throw ducks into the dirt in a live college game with national eyes on him and be met with sympathy. Shedeur had to be flawless to earn respect. Arch had to simply arrive. It's not just unfair, it's exhausting. Two players, two backgrounds, two narratives. One gets automatic grace, the other, constant skepticism. And here's the kicker. Shedeur has done more at every level. More production, more adversity, more pressure. So why is he the one always fighting uphill? Some fans say the answer has nothing to do with talent and everything to do with how the system protects stars with the right last names. Let's say it plainly, there's a pattern here. When Arch Manning has a bad game, the narrative shifts around him. The play calling was too safe. He didn't have the right rhythm. He's still adjusting. The blame slides off him like water off a clean jersey. But when Shedeur Sanders struggles, even briefly, the floodgates open. Suddenly, he's cocky. He's not focused. He needs to sit and learn behind a veteran. The entire tone changes. And if you think people aren't noticing, they are. Social media, message boards, group chats, it's all there. People are starting to question how quarterbacks are covered based on more than just what's happening on the field. Is the difference race, legacy, nostalgia for what certain players represent? No one wants to say it out loud, but the contrast is loud enough on its own. Arch Manning is treated like a developing franchise face, despite minimal gameplay. Shedeur is talked about like a project, despite elite results. Even some NFL insiders have subtly pointed it out, how players like Shedeur are expected to constantly redeem themselves, while others get infinite chances based on name recognition alone. And this isn't just about football. It's about narrative power, the ability to shape how a player is perceived, regardless of what the tape says. Because the reality is, if Shedeur Sanders had Manning on the back of his jersey, you wouldn't be hearing about training wheels. You'd be hearing about untapped greatness. And it's not just fans who are noticing. Some Texas diehards are starting to say it out loud. For a while, Arch Manning could do no wrong, at least in the eyes of the Texas faithful. He was the heir to the throne. Football royalty, the chosen one, meant to finally bring the Longhorns back to national dominance. Fans proudly rocked number 16 jerseys before he ever threw a college pass. Entire tailgates were themed around his recruitment. But after his first real action against Ohio State, something shifted. The murmurs started almost instantly, and not from rival fans, from within Longhorn Nation. Tweets turned to threads. Threads became rants, and suddenly, lifelong Texas supporters were saying what had once been unthinkable. Maybe Arch isn't that guy. We've had better freshmen, and they didn't get half this hype. Why is he starting over QBs who actually earned their spot? Comparisons to legends like Vince Young, Colt McCoy, and Sam Ehlinger were no longer flattering. They were damning. Those guys bled for Texas. Arch? He got a media parade before he even earned his horns. Even the jokes started rolling in. Arch might need to transfer somewhere without ESPN watching. Triple option QB1 season. Let's run Georgia Tech film for this man. And behind the humor, real frustration. Not just with Arch, but with the unearned pedestal he was placed on. Texas fans don't mind losing games, but they hate watching someone get protected from blame. The same fans who once screamed "hook 'em" for Arch are now asking, why does he keep getting treated like the future when the present looks this shaky? And while the fan base starts pulling back, one NFL team might still be all in, but not for the reasons they Despite the warning signs, despite the shaky mechanics and the forgettable debut, somehow Arch Manning's NFL stock is holding. Mock drafts still list him in the first 2 rounds. Scouts keep using phrases like elite upside and raw potential. Even NFL execs are still showing up to Texas practices, plastered across news cycles like it's Peyton 2.0. But here's the catch. They're increasingly not there for Arch. At that same game where Manning struggled against Ohio State, Browns GM Andrew Berry and owner Jimmy Haslam were spotted on the sideline. Not exactly subtle. Yet reporters quickly jumped to the assumption that Arch was the target. The truth? They were there to watch Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur, who by that point had already been buried on the Browns' depth chart behind a 40-year-old Joe Flacco, 5'11" Dylan Gabriel, and journeyman most fans couldn't pick out of a lineup. The same Shedeur who slid to the 5th round after one shaky preseason showing. This is the disconnect. Shedeur Sanders has done more, proven more, and adapted more. Arch Manning has played less, struggled more, and yet remains a projected star. It begs the question, is the NFL actually scouting performance or clout? Are they chasing jersey sales, Manning nostalgia, and PR moments? Or are they doing the work of evaluating quarterbacks who've already performed under fire? Because if Arch keeps struggling and still ends up drafted above players like Shedeur, we won't be looking at a draft board. We'll be looking at a marketing campaign. And that exposes something deeper. College football's obsession with myth over merit. Arch Manning isn't the problem. He's the product. The product of a college football system that no longer waits for results before writing the headlines. That feeds players multi-million-dollar NIL deals, magazine features, and mock draft dreams before they've earned a starting spot. In today's system, it's not about who's good. It's about who's branded. And no brand shines brighter than Manning. It's not Arch's fault the media crowned him early. It's not his fault he was born into one of the most iconic football families in history. But it's our problem when hype becomes a shield for underperformance, and criticism is treated like betrayal. This is college football in the NIL era. Players are marketed before they're developed. Image beats impact. Pedigree outweighs production. Meanwhile, guys like Shedeur Sanders, the ones grinding through every level, facing real defenses, overcoming media judgment with actual gameplay, get pushed aside the moment they stumble. No safety net, no excuse engine, just pressure and silence. And the scariest part, the fans are starting to accept it. We're so focused on who's next that we overlook who's now. This obsession with early glory, legacy names, and narrative-friendly stars is damaging the game. It turns development into drama. It replaces earning it with expecting it. The NFL is watching. The boosters are cashing checks. The sponsors are printing jerseys. But what happens when the lights hit and the story doesn't match the stats? We've seen that movie before. We just watched another trailer with Arch Manning. So here we are. One quarterback barely plays, struggles when he does, yet remains a crown jewel in the eyes of draft analysts and media insiders. Another fights through every level of college football, breaks records, wins awards, and still gets treated like a lucky underdog. It's not just about Arch Manning or Shedeur Sanders. It's about what these two names represent in the modern college football machine. So, one is legacy, the other is proof, but somehow legacy stays protected, no matter the performance. Meanwhile, proof gets ignored overnight when it's no longer convenient for the narrative. And this isn't a one-off scenario. It's becoming a pattern. Overhyped recruits get endless media coverage, while proven players fight for reps. 5th-round steals get buried, while 2nd-round projects get promoted to the front of the line. And fans? We're being sold myths in marketing packages built on last names, not highlights. Maybe Arch will grow into the hype. Maybe Shedeur will flip the story again. Who knows? But if we keep letting the game favor branding over ball, talent's not the only thing we'll be losing. We'll lose the hunger, the edge, the stories that made college football real. Because if the future of football is just about who your uncle is, who your agent knows, and how marketable you can look on camera, we're not watching a sport anymore. We're watching a commercial. So before we let the media sell us the next can't-miss legend, maybe we should check the stats first and ask one question: did this player own the crown or just inherit it?